Hi everyone. So in this video, we are going to see the next part of the lifecycle hooks. Okay. So before moving on to the concept, in the previous video, I have shown you this particular diagrammatic representation of the lifecycle hooks, right? So in this, while I was describing you about the sequence, in what sequence the constructor and connected callback will be executed or invoked, we have discussed in the previous video, right? So while discussing about this, I just wanted to mention one more point here. If you see here, once the public property is being updated, okay, it is checking whether any public property has to be updated, right? So if it is no, it is going to come to the next part of the life cycle. But if it is yes, okay, it is going to update that public property and then it is going to coming back, it will be joining back to the life cycle again. Okay. So I just missed this arrow in the previous video. Okay, you can just make a note of it. And similarly also in the child also, after the constructor is being executed, it will check for the public property to be updated. If it is no, it is going to go to the next part of the life cycle. If it is yes, it is going to update the public property value and then it is going to come back to the main life cycle hooks. Okay. So this is the concept and I just missed this arrow. Please make a note of it. Okay. So in this video, we are going to see the next part of the life cycle hooks, okay, the mounting phase. So in the previous video, we have discussed many concepts about the life cycle hooks, right? So in that, the first one, the mounting phase, we are going to discuss in this video, okay? So we know what are all the methods are getting executed, right? The callback methods in mounting phase are constructor, connected callback, and rendered callback. Okay, so these are the three callback methods that gets automatically invoked in the backend at the different life stages of this particular component. Okay, in the life cycle of a component, these will be executed in different phases. Okay, so we are going to see each and every method with a short description in the slide, and then we are going to see a short hands-on in the VS Code also. Okay, so let us first see what is constructor. Okay, so we all know what is constructor, right? So in components lifecycle, when the constructors will be getting invoked is, it will be invoked when the component is actually created. Okay, when the component is created, this constructor callback will be automatically invoked in the backend. Okay, so we are going to see what you can actually achieve with this constructor callback. Okay, so while describing to you about the lifecycle hooks in the previous video, I told you that as a developer, we can actually make use of this particular predefined callback methods for our own use cases, right? So we are going to see at what point of the time it is going to get executed, and also we are going to see what you can achieve with this constructor callback also. Okay, so first I told you that whenever the component is created, this constructor's callback will be automatically invoked in the backend. Okay, so and the next one is whether you will be able to access the child element. Okay, say for example, you have a child being embodied into the parent. Okay, but at this point of time, when the component is in the creation phase, it doesn't know whether the child is being embodied to it or not. Okay, why? Because the template haven't yet been created yet. Okay, so it is in the creation phase. The component itself is in the creation phase, so it doesn't know that there is a child being embedded to it. Okay, so it is actually a well-known answer that we cannot access the child elements from the constructor callback. Okay, so that is the point here. And we do have one more concept here, that this hook, okay, this is a hook, right? Constructor callback is a hook. It flows from parent to child. Okay, so why we say it as parent to child is because whenever a component is being loaded or whenever it is created, the first method is the constructor that gets executed in the parent. Okay, so it actually always flows from the parent to child. Okay, so once we do a hands-on, you will understand what is this particular parent to child. Okay, so next one, we are going to see what other things you can achieve with this constructor callback. Okay, so whether you will be able to assign any values for the properties. Okay, no, right, we will not be able to do because the component itself it's in the creation phase. Okay, so these are the important points you have to keep it in your mind while you're actually making use of this constructor callback. Okay, so now let us go to the VS Code. And before moving on to the VS Code, we have one more point here. Okay, so any other special methods we have to add inside the constructor means we can actually have one important method inside the constructor callback. Okay, that is the super method. Okay, super method is actually a most important one. You have to add it as a first statement in your constructor callback. Okay, it's a mandatory one. Okay, so let us go back to the VS Code and check why we have to add the super method as the first statement in the constructor callback. Okay, so in the VS Code, you can see here, I have already created a component here. Okay, there is a parent component. And I have given all the basic necessary things, like I have exposed the component here, okay? And I have also given the basic styling classes for the template. All those things are done, okay? Now what we are going to do is we are going to discuss about the callback methods, that is the lifecycle hooks here, right? So whenever you create a particular component, okay, whenever you create a Lightning Web component, automatically three important files are generated, right? The HTML, JS, and XML that we all know, okay? If you see in JS, you can see here a default code. That is the boilerplate code you will be already having here, okay? In this code, you can see carefully the class name becomes your component's name, right? So by default, this particular component, whatever we create, it extends a base class, which is the Lightning element, okay? The Lightning element is actually the base class for all our components, okay? So it is actually the mother of all our components, whatever we are going to create. Okay, so whatever you're going to create, your own components will derive the base from this particular class. Okay, so it is actually inheriting the base class. Okay, so whenever we have an inheritance kind of concept, we have to use the super inside the constructor, right? We have learned the basics, right? So if you want to have a constructor here, okay, so because actually this is actually the this is actually deriving its properties from the base class. Okay, so it is actually the derived class. Okay, so if it is a derived class, it has to first invoke its superior class first. Okay, so super is the first method that has to be given as a first statement inside your constructor. Okay, I hope it is clear, right? So let us just then you can use all other things, whatever you can put it inside here. Okay, you can have your own business logics, you can actually put inside this. Okay, but make sure that super is the first method, it should be invoked. Okay, so that is the thing inside the constructor. Okay, so now let us understand in the slides for what purpose you can actually use this constructor callback. Okay, so let us go back to the VS code, sorry, slides now. If you see here, as I told you, whenever the component is being created, this constructors will be executed as the first method, right? So we can actually use this constructor for setting up initial values. Okay, so one-time setup you can actually use, because constructors will be invoked only one time. In life cycle of a particular component, constructor callback method will be invoked only one time. Okay, so if you want to do some kind of one-time activity, like one time if you want to initialize something, or if you want to set up some values or tasks for one time, then you can actually make use of this constructor callback method. Okay, I hope it is clear, right? So now we are going to do one thing. We are going to have a console.log. Okay, and we are going to say constructor invoked. Okay, so let us see whether this particular statement is being displayed on my console when the component is created. Okay, we are going to test that now. So let us first deploy this parent component, and let us go to the org now. Okay, so in the org, actually, what I have done is I have actually clicked and dragged my custom component into my space already. Okay, so let us now just go to the inspect. Why we have to go to inspect? Because I have given the console.log, right, to see whether this component is actually invoking the constructor callback method. Okay, the lifecycle hook, that is the first lifecycle hook, right? Let us clear the console now. Let us refresh this page. Okay, so the constructors will be automatically invoked when the component is being created. Okay, you can see here constructor called. Okay, that is the first method that gets invoked automatically when the component is actually in the creation phase. Okay, in the creation phase. Okay, so now let us go to the next part of this particular lifecycle hook. Okay, so next one is connected callback. Okay, this is also very important one. So in LWC, mostly we'll be using this connected callback in many of our use cases. Okay, so this is very important one. Okay, so when this particular connected callback method will be invoked is when the component is actually inserted into the DOM. Okay, when the component is being inserted into your document or DOM, this connected callback will be automatically invoked in the backend. Okay, so it is actually next to the constructor. Okay, it will be executed next to the constructor. Okay, so what we can actually do inside the connected callback, we are going to check now. Okay, whether we'll be able to access the child from here? No. Okay, because the component is just inserted into the document and the template is not yet rendered. Okay, only when the template is rendered, you will be able to access the child elements, right? So even now the template is not yet rendered, so you'll not be able to access the child from here. Okay, and then this hook also, it flows from parent to child. Okay, so this you will be understanding at the end of this video. You'll be understanding why I say this is actually parent to child. Okay, so this also, it executes from parent to child. Okay, so this point is very important. Okay, next we are going to see one more important point. For what purpose we are going to use this connected callback? Okay, as a developer, we should know for what purpose we can actually use this connected callback in our projects or assignments, right? So if you want to do some kind of initialization tasks, okay, which is very important. Okay, if you want to do some kind of initialization, then this is the best callback method you can actually use. Okay, so initialization means when the component is inserted into the document itself, if you want to do some initialization. Okay, so say for example, if you want to fetch some data from external resources, when the component is being inserted itself, if you want to fetch some data, if the component is completely dependent on some external resources, okay, then we can actually use this connected callback. Okay, so the setup catches or listen for events, or also it is used for these purposes also. But as of now, we have not learned all these things, right? But you can actually understand that it is also used for setting up catches and listening for the events also. Okay, and the next, this one is very important. You have to know what is this. Okay, so subscribing and unsubscribing from a message channel. Okay, so soon actually we are going to learn one more concept in LWC, which is lightning message service. Okay, we call it as LMS. Okay, so in that LMS, whenever you are actually subscribing to the message channel, we'll be using this connected callback. Okay, so once your component is being mounted into the org or space, if you want to connect to a particular message channel, we'll be actually using this connected callback. Okay, so in general, you have to understand that connected callbacks will be invoked after the constructor method. So we can actually make use of this particular method for our initialization tasks. Okay, that is an important point. Okay, so now we are going to just use this particular method inside our VS Code also. Okay, let us see here. Okay, so come here and just give connected callback. Okay. So these are all pre-existing methods, right? So let us have a console.log. Let us copy paste this. Okay. So here instead of constructor, I'm going to give the connected callback. Okay, let us save this and let us deploy and see what it does. Okay, so let us deploy and see how it, so at what time it is going to get invoked, we're going to test now. Okay, let us go back to the org and let us refresh this page and let us just see what happens. Okay, can see here, as we expected, constructor got invoked first and connected callback invoked the next. Okay, this is actually proved from here. Okay, so once the component is created, in the creation phase, constructor gets invoked, and when the component is being inserted into the DOM, the connected callback is getting invoked. Okay, so we can actually test whether the component is being inserted into the DOM or not. Okay, I'm telling you that it is getting inserted, right? Let us just see this with the proof also. So let us go to the VS Code now. So we do have a method to check this. Okay, let us have a console.log. Okay, so let us say here connected callback component inserted into DOM. Okay. Okay, let us have like this a statement. Okay, in connected callback insert component inserted into DOM, I'm going to ask a question. So I'm going to use here a property here. Okay, so connected. So this will give you whether this will actually point to the current component. Okay, this component is actually currently attached to a DOM or not. Okay, so we say that in connected callback, the component gets attached to the DOM, right? We are going to test this. Okay, let us also copy paste this particular statement and let us paste it inside the constructor also. Okay, so let us understand in the constructor phase. Okay, in the constructor phase, the component will not be inserted into the DOM, right? Let us see whether this value is going to be a true or false. Okay, this is actually a Boolean value. It will return you a Boolean value. If the component is inserted into the DOM, it is going to return true. If not, it is going to return false. Okay, so let us just deploy this parent now. And let us see. Okay, so let us go back to the org and let us just clear the console and let's just refresh this page. Okay, so let us understand from here. Okay, fine. You can see here the constructor is being invoked. Okay, in the constructor phase, okay, in the constructor stage, the component is not yet inserted into the DOM. Okay, the value is false. Okay, in connected callback, after that connected callback is getting executed, in this phase, the component is inserted into the DOM. You can just see it is true. Okay, so hence it is proved that in connected callback, the component is getting inserted into the DOM. So you can do some kind of initialization tasks here. Okay, so this is the concept. Okay, so let us go back to the slides now. We have few more points to discuss in connected callback. Okay, if you see here, connected callback can be fired more than once, okay? But once the component is being mounted in your screen, it will be called only once, okay? So once you unmount, okay, once you remove the component and if you place it somewhere else, okay, at that point, the connected callback will be triggered again, okay? That one point you have to make it a point, okay? And the second one is we are going to see what you shouldn't do inside the connected callback, okay? We have learned that we can do the initialization tasks inside the connected callback, right? Now we are going to see what you shouldn't do inside the connected callback, okay? So for example, we can actually pass the initialization tasks inside the connected callback. I told you already, right? So you can actually use this hook for invoking that kind of activities, okay? So this hook is invoked with the initial properties passed to the component, okay? So this particular hook will get invoked along with the properties, whatever you're giving as a initialized values, okay? So your component actually, it will be initialized with these values once the connected callback is being executed, okay? What happens is, if your component is completely dependent on these values, okay, if your component is completely dependent on these values, okay, so if your component is actually if it is a dynamic component, okay, if it is a dynamic component, if its state is going to change based on this particular initial properties, then you shouldn't use the connected callback. Okay, I repeat this. So whenever you are actually initializing the properties inside the component, for the component in the connected callback, if your component is completely dependent on this particular properties for its state change, okay, if it is going to change, if the component states will change based on this particular property, then don't use this type of initialization inside the connected callback. Okay, so if it is going to be dynamic property, if your component is actually a dynamic component, if its state is going to change based on the initial properties values, then it is better to go with the getters and setters. Okay, because the values will be once initialized inside the connected callback. Once the component is being inserted into the DOM, okay, it will remain the same. Okay, it will not be invoked again. So your component, if it is depending on this kind of properties, this connected callback is not going to get invoked again unless and otherwise you're going to dismount and amount it again. Okay, so if your component state is completely dependent on the initial properties, then it is better to go with the getters and setters. Okay, if it is going to be a static value, say for example, you want to load some kind of pictures from the external resources, that is going to be a static one, right? So if you want to initialize your component with the static properties, it is okay. But if your component is dependent on these properties and if it is going to change based on that, then it is better to go with the getters and setters. Okay, so we should know what you shouldn't do also, right? That's what we have discussed now. I hope it is clear, right? So now we are going to see the next method. So the important point what you have seen here is we can actually use this dot is connected to check whether the component is inserted into the DOM or not. That we have already done as a hands-on, right? Now we are going to see the next one, the rendered callback. Okay, actually this is the tricky method in lifecycle hooks. Okay, so you have to handle this in a very gentle manner, because if you don't handle it carefully, this will actually lead to infinite loop. Okay, so we are going to see, it is going to give you a performance issue also if you don't handle it properly. Okay, we are going to see as a hands-on also. Okay, first let us see when this rendered callback hook will be invoked. Okay, it will be invoked when the component is getting rendered. Okay, whenever the component renders, we know that every time whenever you change the properties values, the component will render again and again, right? So for each render, this rendered callback will be invoked in the backend. Okay, I hope this is clear, right? So now we are going to check whether we'll be able to check a child, we'll be able to access a child or not. Okay, at this point, our template is being rendering, right? So it is proved that the template actually it is getting render means the components template is already being mounted. Okay, so now the child elements can be accessed. Okay, it is now accessible. Okay, and this hook, it flows from child to parent. Why it is child to parent, we are going to see soon now. Okay, so we'll understand this with the example also. So previously, constructor and the connected callback, it flows from the parent to child, I told you. This hook, it is flowing from the child to parent. You can just make a note of it. We will discuss at the end of the video with the example also. Okay, so now we are going to see this with an example also. Okay, and then I want to give you a brief introduction about the re-rendering. Okay, so we have learned before, but I want to show you what is re-rendering. When the component will be re-rendered, I hope you all know that, right? When the component will be re-rendered is whenever you change the values of the properties. Okay, say for example, I'm having a name property in my JS. Okay, if I'm changing the name again and again, the rendered callback will be automatically invoked in the backend. Okay, so the template will be re-rendered, right? That we have learned in the reactivity. Okay, the properties are naturally reactive. We have learned in the basic itself, right? And the second one is if you are using this kind of dynamic properties in your template, then also the template will get re-rendered. Okay, and when you are using a getter property, okay, getter property, and if you are using the getter property in your template also, your component will re-render. Whenever the component is re-rendering, this rendered callback will be automatically invoked. That is the important point. Okay, so this rendered callback can be called more than once. Okay, that is understood, right? Whenever your properties are changing, we'll be changing the properties more than once, right? So it will be automatically invoked more than once, the rendered callback also. Okay, so let us go to the VS Code and then let us just give the command. Okay, let us just go to the VS Code. Fine. So in this place, I'm going to give the rendered callback. Okay, rendered callback. So let us say the same console.log, let us copy paste here. So let us understand at what point of time this rendered callback is being executed. Okay, so let us save this file and let us just deploy this file. Okay. So we are going to see at what moment this rendered callback will get executed. Okay. So I want you to just remember the pictorial representation also. Okay. Let us go back to the pictorial representation before refreshing the org. Okay. In this pictorial representation, if a parent component is not having a child, okay, as of now, we don't have a child, right? If there is a no child here, after the connected callback, the parent's getting rendered, right? After the parent template is rendered, it checks whether any child component is there or not. As of now, in our particular template, we don't have any child embedded. Okay, so what happens, we have seen that if there is no child component, the parent's rendered callback will get executed automatically, right? So we are going to check that whether it is happening or not. Okay, so let us go back to the org now. Let us clear the console and refresh this page. Okay, now we have included rendered callback in our JS. Okay, can see here the flow. Okay, the constructor is called first, and this is the is connected I have given. Let us comment this for the next time. So connected callback is executed next, and then you can see the rendered callback is being executed. Okay, so the rendered callback, it is actually from the parent. As of now, we don't have any child embedded to it. Okay, so we are going to test that now. Okay, we are going to test. What we are going to test is if it is having a child, it is going to execute the child's life cycle starts executing, right? So we are going to see whether if I have a child, it is going to execute the child's life cycle or not. Okay, to do that, already I have got created a one child component here. Okay, I'm having a child here already. Let us see this. Okay, I'm having a child. Okay, in the child JS, I don't have anything. In the child template, I have a basic styling alone. Okay, so I'm going to include this particular child inside my parent template. Okay, in the parent template, let us include this child. Okay, it's a simple child, C-child. Okay, so I have actually embedded my child now. Okay, inside this particular child, I'm going to give the connected callback, constructor, and all those things. Okay, so we are going to test whether the child's life cycle starts. Okay, we are going to check whether the child's life cycle starts after the connected callback. If it sees a child, it starts executing that one, right? So let us come to the child JS. Let us copy paste this. Okay. So here let us comment this particular statement. Okay. And here also let us comment this. And in the child, what am I going to do is I'm going to just remove this. I'm going to remove this one also. So here I'm going to give child. Okay. So child constructor call to have a differentiation. Okay. So let us just copy paste this quickly. So child connected callback is invoked and rendered callback of child is invoked. Okay. Similarly, in parent also, I'm going to give parent. Okay. So let us have it in capitals. Okay. Parent, let us copy here and let us just paste here. Okay. So let's just paste here. Okay. Let us save both the files. What I have done is I have changed the names alone. Okay. We are going to test this. Okay. We told that, right? When there is a child, it starts executing the child's life cycle, right? We're going to test this. So let us just deploy both the components. Okay. Parent and child. Okay. And let us also deploy the child also. Okay. So deploy the child and let us go back to the org now. Okay. So let us clear the console and let's just refresh this page. Okay, we are going to see the order of execution of the callback hooks. Okay, you can see here, first the parent constructor is invoked. no matter what, even a child is being embedded now, okay, a child is being embedded now, no matter what, the constructor of the parent gets executed, okay. That's why I told you that the constructors are actually flowing from the parent to child, okay. And then the connected callback also, you can see here, parent connected callback is first executed, okay, even though we have a child inside our component, okay. So that's why we tell this particular connected callback as also it flows from the parent to child. And then you can see here, surprisingly, the parent rendered callback, it didn't get executed, right? Automatically, once the parent's template rendered, it sees that there is a child being embedded to it, okay. So automatically the child's life cycle starts here. The child constructor is getting called and child's connected callback is getting executed. And once the child's rendered callback is done, it comes back to the main parent's rendered callback and it is done after that. That's why we say the rendered callback as it flows from the child to parent. Okay, if it see the child after the connected callback, after the template is rendered, it checks if any child is being embedded in the template. If it is yes, the child's life cycle starts executing from there. So the child's construct is getting executed and child's connected callback and rendered callback is getting executed. Once the child's rendered callback is done, the parent's rendered callback is invoked. Okay, hence it is proved, right? We can see the diagram here. So once all the child's thing is done, child is rendered. So in this particular use case, we haven't embedded one more child inside this. Okay, so it is actually completing its life cycle. Okay, so after this, we don't have any child. If any child is embedded into the child again, it goes back to the life cycle again. Okay, in our case, we don't have any child. So what happens is child's rendered callback is getting invoked. And once the child's rendered callback is done, it goes to the end of its life cycle. After that, only the parent's life cycle, that is the rendered callback is getting invoked and the parent's life cycle is getting ended. Okay, so if there is no child, okay, it would have ended before itself. Okay, so this concept you have to understand. Rendered callback will get invoked only after the child. If there is a child, child's life cycle should end first. Okay, only if the child's rendered callback is done, the parent's rendered callback will be invoked. Okay, so this concept, I hope it is clear, right? So this is the concept of lifecycle hooks in the mounting phase. Okay, so I told you that in the slides that rendered callback actually it issues a performance issues, right? So the component will become slow. I told you, right? That small hands-on, let us see it as a separate video. Okay, so let us meet in the next video. Okay, thank you.